Good evening. This is Bill Moran and Kelly Rosella coming to you from the Bill Moran Show. And we're going to describe a little bit about what we're going to do with our YouTube show. But first of all, we would like to welcome our new sponsor that we will be playing the commercial to give you an idea of what we can do for sponsors. So with that, we'll go ahead and play our commercial.
What makes luxury travel so special? Your cruise planner's luxury travel agent, of course. Here are 5 ways we make world-class vacations extra special. Number 1, fabulous hotels and accommodations with personalized service. Number 2, exquisite dining, so we only recommend the finest. Number 3, undiscovered places to cross off your bucket list. Number 4, brag-worthy experiences you'll never want to forget. Number 5, downtime for reading or indulging in a holistic spa treatment. Who's booking your luxury vacation? Cruise Planners, your land and cruise experts.
Hey, I'm Callie, your land and cruise expert. I specialize in fun across Europe, the Caribbean, and even Hawaii. Whether you are traveling by land or by sea, the person to book it, of course, would be me.
We would like to thank Cruise Planners for sponsoring the Bill Moran Show this episode.
If that person looked familiar, it's me.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly,
You're
and
welcome.
thank you, Cruise Planners, for helping bring this episode today. So I thought we would talk about a little bit about what we're going to do in upcoming, not only the YouTube show, which we're going to basically do an outline of what we're going to be doing on this and WVLP. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing on WVLP coming this Wednesday. This one I'm going to hold special because this person that we're going to bring on is the daughter of someone that I really, truly owe my life to, literally owe my life to. It is Susan Scully, the daughter of Dr. John Scully, a physician that is very well known. If you ask your doctor that you go to, do you know Dr. John Scully? Chances are they would say yes. He started his career back in 1951 after he received his degree in his doctorate and went on to work with various different hospitals in the area as an internalist. The story I have to tell about him, I'm going to save for that show, and I'm hoping that I will keep somewhat of a straight, keep my composure, if you will, because literally myself, my children would not be here if we were not for Dr. John Scully, particularly with me and my mother. He virtually saved my mother's life, and we'll tell you more about that on Wednesday. But again, I can't tell you. You're going to have to keep up with us because just be patient with us because when we read his bio, it is long. It is a novel, but we owe it to him and his legacy. He passed away here just recently, and so this is even more emotional for me and meaningful for his family that we do this. So that will be Wednesday at 11 o'clock that we'll be doing that and asking Susan, his daughter, to come on and share his life with us and talk about some stories. And by the way, if you have your own story about Dr. John Scully, please leave us a message on our Facebook page, and we'll make sure it gets up there. And you could do that by any main way. We have a Twitter account, our Twitter feed, The Bill Moran Show. We have our Facebook page. So please, if you knew of the man, if he was your doctor specifically, and feel comfortable sharing a story, please do so. He was a very gifted, not just a doctor, but a very kind, giving person. He was his fabulous way that he carried himself was just unbelievable. He cared about people, and so we will share more of that as we go on. The next thing that we're going to be doing is, in fact, I'm going to be discussing it here, and we'll be talking about it more in our show. The Freedom House, which is a non-for-profit organization that keeps track of virtually freedom in the world. They have released a study which is troublesome, and you can go to their Facebook page by just doing a search for Freedom House, or their website, just Google Freedom House. And their latest report that they released just recently is somewhat staggering. It shows a decline in democracy worldwide. And there's several attributing factors that they point to. And one of the things that they look at is the political rights and civil liberties around the world deteriorated to their lowest point in more than a decade in 2017. So there's a lot of things that they point to that contribute to that. Some of the elections in the area. One of the things that they see as a attributing factor to the decline in freedom is the attack on elections. We're now look like some of these countries out there going back to more of a less of a democracy and moving more towards a dictatorship or removal of human rights. And so that's disturbing. One of the things that they point to is the leadership that the United States used to give is now, because of our tendencies to move towards isolationism and more of a look at what we need to do to improve the United States, as opposed to what the United States can do to lead the world in supporting and defending democracy. One of the things I got to say, Kelly, I always heard the term about our president as the leader of the free world. And that was always a title that they carried.
Not so much anymore.
No, and it's sad.
It is.
And, again, that's arguable because there are things in the United States, people were calling for change, and, and that's what happened. There was an onslaught of people going out to vote for change, and hence we have a president that is coming in and changing things. But one of the things that they point to in his administration is, first of all, the American First slogan, originally coined by isolationists, seeking to block the United States' involvement in war against fascism. Again, the thought was we need to take care of ourselves. The world needs to figure it out on their own. And that is one attributing factor. But then they look at the United States, and there seems to be a deterioration within the United States that was of concern. The past year brought further faster erosion of Americans' own democratic standards than any other time, memory, damaging international credibility as a champion of good governance and human rights. The United States has experienced a series of setbacks in conduct of elections, criminal justice over the past decade. So keep in mind, that's over a past decade that they've noted this. So we can't totally blame it on our existing situation. Under leadership from major political parties, but in 2017, its core institutions were attacked by an administration that rejects established norms of ethical conduct across many fields of activity. They go on to say President Trump himself has mingled in concerns of his own business empire with his role as president, appointed family members to his senior staff, and filled other high positions with lobbyists and representatives of special interest groups, and refused to abide by disclosure and transparency practices observed by his predecessors. So again, if you're interested in taking a look at this report, this is an independent organization.
It's very insightful.
It's exactly very insightful. And you could go back and look at their reports to see how they've changed over the years. But they've always given a barometer of where we are at as far as the world with regard to freedom. And we're backsliding. That's basically what they're saying. So I urge you to go again to freedomhouse.org, their website, and take a look at some of the metrics that they use to determine where this backsliding is coming from and the indicators they do. One of the things that they are very concerned about, just not in the United States, but internationally, is the attack on these. And that is something our First Amendment is supposed to guard against here in the United States, but it seems to be an international thing as stated by the freedomhouse.org. So, and I know within the United States it seems to be following what's happening internationally. Of course, we've had the the term that you're almost sick of hearing is fake news. But then we also have instances where people are told that they can't write about this. They shouldn't be writing about it. I don't think there was a better time for the release of the movie The Post.
I was just going to say.
That reminded us of the role that journalism plays in our democracy. They're there for a very good reason. They're there to keep those elected officials honest.
Yeah.
And, I could think of things here locally where some editorialists and some journalists were challenged for writing things that endangered other things going on, whether they be trials or what have you. And I just don't ever remember that being done. It's just disturbing to me that a journalist, after we've gone through, the Watergate, the Pentagon Papers, that we still are now trying to control journalists and what they write. Kind of disturbing. So with that, again, that is, again, I want to call out in the decline in democracy, as it's called. So please go ahead and read that. I urge you to go ahead and do that. One of the things that we are going to be talking about on our show, both on the YouTube, more probably on the YouTube than WVLP, because that is a community-based station, is corruption in the area, corruption in the United States. We've got some very good journalists in the area that are investigative journalists that we've had on the show. We've had Mark Chase on. We've had Ken Davison of the NWI Gazette. And both of them have done an excellent job of covering the trials, what leading up to the trials. Very good investigative reporters.
What's going on in the local governments that you don't hear about in
Right.
a lot of the media.
Right. And as we're coming up on primary and election time, I think it's important. I think never before I've seen in Lake County a sensitivity towards corruption. Call it either the Bunsich trial or some of the other things that are happening in Lake County and in Porter County. It's something that's on everyone's radar. Now, I've talked to other people. They said, well, that always happens. We have the U.S. attorney immediately after the Bunsich trial saying that he is going to put together a task force to investigate corruption in Northwest Indiana or northern area, his area that he oversees. So again, it's something that I think needs to be done, and again, in conjunction with our journalists in the area, to keep an eye on what those elected officials should be doing. I got to call back to my dad's day, and my dad was extremely active politically and also within the community, and he hated what was going on. I mean, he saw corruption firsthand. He saw people try to isolate when there was a change in our neighborhood. He saw people purposely going out trying to damage people's property to keep from our neighborhood from changing over to different ethnic, and it was already mixed. So I don't know what people are so upset about. We already had a multicultural community that was absolutely beautiful in Glen Park. We had African American, we had Hispanics, we had Greeks, Jewish. You name it. It was a melting pot. And
which is what America is. It's been known as the melting pot of the
Right.
world for centuries.
And we are going to be talking about that on the show. And we're fresh off of the celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday. And that's something also that I wanted to talk about. You're going to be hearing us on the show, something that I've been extremely emotional about talking about, and that is the celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday. Historically, we've had schools have not taken off that day. It's a celebrated holiday federal-wise, but schools have always opted to have the students in. Just recently, we've noticed that some school districts have honored it as a holiday. One of the questions I have, if you are not going to take it off, what are you going to do to honor the man's legacy? And that has been, I've got to say, difficult because some just play the I had a dream speech and talk a little bit about the history, and that's it. And really, in my eyes, and a lot of this is done by, I'm sorry, but white Anglo-Saxon administrators. And to me, in order to totally celebrate this man's legacy, we should have a multi-racial people of color on a committee to design what is going to happen on Martin Luther King's Day. Now, whether it's held, school is held, or it is taken off as a holiday, I think we need to go out to the community and particularly make sure that we involve the people of color. And I've used this on Facebook before, that people who have actually got skin in the game, that people who are now finally, and it's still eroding, but their freedom, the taste of freedom is there. And it's for them, the equal rights for all that Dr. Martin Luther King gave his life. So I think it's important that we not automatically say, okay, well, we're going to create these events. Let's make sure that we involve people of color, people who are very passionate about the man's legacy, and make sure that they are involved and they have their input. So we're going to continue talking about that as we move through. I know Valpo Schools made an announcement that they were not going to have that day off, and they're going to bring the students in for instruction. But they recently stepped back from that and now are opening the discussion up to the community to make that determination. And my hat's off to my former employer, Valpo Schools, for doing that. I think it's a very wise decision. And I'm looking at it, if I were a person of color, looking at a all-white school board, making that decision on behalf of the community, I think they need to be sensitive about that, make sure that people's rights are not being stifled. Or I don't want to put in a negative term, but not seeking community input, because people out there could have harsh feelings about that. And so I'm glad to see them take that out to the community. The other thing that we are going to continue talking about on the show is Crimes in the Shadows. That's where we have a panel made up of, and again, we've discussed domestic violence in a roundtable discussion before, but now we're changing it up a bit. We're actually having survivors on the show of not just domestic violence, but of rape or harassment, sexual harassment. We realize that's somewhat controversial, especially what's going on with the Me Too movement, but it's something where we've done one of these already, and I've got to say I pretty proud of Brianne for the job that she did to
Amazing
let those
job.
ladies' voices be heard.
Absolutely.
And again, this is something, I know some people in particular say, well, why is Bill Moran doing this, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, it's not me. It's the people who actually were inflicted with this. It's something that, as all the other roundtable discussions that we've had, we felt that we needed to get the topics out and discussed. And it's that and a lot of other things. And I know that this lovely lady beside me is extremely passionate about this particularly, and she was there during that panel discussion, and it was very emotional, and to hear these people talk about that. And it seems like this is where this show is headed. I've talked about this to Kelly before, and it seems like the most interest, or what people want us to do, is discuss those things that affect our community. We're going to have general interest stories, definitely, but I'll give an instance. During the cold snap that we had just recently, I kept asking a question. Okay, I'm a homeless person. Where do I go? And it was not a straightforward answer. I got several answers, and I'm like, gosh, if I'm faced with trying to find shelter, and it's going to be sub-zero, kind of like 20-degree below wind chill, I've got to find someplace fast. And so I put out a little thing out on our post on our Facebook page, and I'll be darned if that wasn't the most read article that we did out of the Bill Moran Show. And we had Rich Schmidt, who actually helped with that list of information, come in and just help me to put that together. And so, Rich, if you're going to listen to this, I thank you again. It's something that all of our discussions, I try to put my plate and put myself in the place of those individuals. Where would I go? Same thing with our roundtable discussion on drug abuse. Although now what has blossomed out of that, which is I'm really happy about, quite frankly, is our partnership with PACT. And we actually have kind of a 2-hour block where we still have our own individual shows, but Megan Johnston, who is the coordinator for Recovery Connection of Porter County, is partnering with us, and we now have like a 3-headed host thing going. She's helping out with the Bill Moran Show, and conversely, we are helping out with the what used to be called All Rise, but is now called Recovery Radio. And that I'm kind of excited about, because that leads me into my last topic. We had another project that we were doing called The Walk, which is really a story of a person who's gone completely through their whole life, faced addiction, struggled with addiction, and then finally went through recovery and had a complete changed life. And that's what we titled The Walk. And I'll be honest with you, we struggled with getting the people on. We've had one person come on, we recorded them, and it was just a matter of either my schedule or their schedule. We have not had the second person on. But one of the benefits of having a joint venture with PACT and Recovery Connection is now that we have people to help out with that. And one thing or another, I just don't know what it was. I was not really a member of that community. I was passionate about it. I wanted to do something about it. But now that we have a partnership with PACT, we do have a partner that is going to help us try to find those people to tell their story, which I think is powerful. And we're going to try to do it with video and audio in a podcast format and YouTube, where you will hear a person's story from childhood all the way to post-recovery to a changed life. And a lot of these people, it's amazing. They've gone on to be doctors. They've gone on to be CEOs. And we talk about that specifically. I talk about the slingshot effect of some of these people. They go to literally living out on the streets and going through find their way to recovery, and then having a changed life. So that is another project that we're going to continue with. And really, that's about it. We are going to try is the wrong word. We are going to have a YouTube channel show called The Bill Moran Show. It is going to be completely different from WVLP. We are going to be strictly YouTube. We may do Twitter, Periscope on Twitter, but right now we technically cannot do that. So our YouTube show is not going to be live streamed until we could get a better internet connection. So it's going to be recorded and uploaded within, I want to say, half hour that we record it. So that's where we're at. This is what we are going to be doing. We're still committed to WVLP, having that show again along with Megan Johnston and doing the Recovery Connection or actually not, Recovery Connection, but Recovery Radio. And that in itself, I think we're both excited about that. We're talking about possibly a music show sometimes, and then having some resources, which is really what the show was intended to be. But we're going to branch out from there. Maybe have some folks on that have, that there's actually a genre for recovery. So that's kind of neat. And then, of course, I'd be remiss in not reminding everyone about Kelly's Region Rants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of them is just going to, I'm just going to bring the iPhone in the car and record as we drive. Yeah.
The whole thing would be blah, blah, beep, blah, blah, beep, blah, blah, beep,
my
because
gosh.
in the car,
I do share. I do share
little
some
salty.
of her complaints. I mean, it's like those people that like to use the right-hand turn lane and get on about a mile ahead before, and they don't let you in. When you get in when you're supposed to, they just don't let you in. It's crazy. Well, yeah. Well, I have to get. I know. Welcome back to Lake County, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then we got the railroad crossings and all. So, well, I don't.
But it's home.
Yeah, that's about it. If there's something else you would like us to cover, please let us know, and we'll put it on our list. But that seems to be where this show is headed, to concentrate on things that affect our society, things that affect our community in general. As I intended to with the Bill Moran Show, we will have elected officials on. We will have journalists on, and continue, and just general celebrities. In fact, we've got some ideas of that regard, that maybe having some folks come.
Well, you
in
got
or
me
call
on.
in.
I'm a celebrity. I have
Yes,
my own
she
commercial.
is.
Hello.
Yeah, yes, she is. And with that, I think we're going to wrap things up. Again, please listen to us on Wednesday. That is going to be very interesting. For those of you who know Dr. John Scully, his daughter is going to be literally taking us through a tour of his life, which there's a lot of things I didn't know about. But a fascinating man, absolutely fascinating man. And a lot of doctors that are practicing today owe their medical practice to Dr. John Scully. He mentored them. They worked under residency with him. Just an amazing, amazing person. And he did some phenomenal things that, were never recorded because he was that type of person. He was a very humble person. And I've got to tell you, when he worked with our family, when he was my dad's physician, when he had ALS, the compassion that he showed, it was just unbelievable. And boy, did we need it. We saw a man that we loved very dearly just dwindle before our eyes. And he kept on giving these monthly meetings with our entire family, and just let us know what was going on with him, and constantly encourage us the things that we should be doing, and so on. So just a amazing person, and I not only owe him my life, but amazing man. So please tune in and hear more about him. And I'm sure, like I said, if you ask your physicians about him, they will definitely know about him. So with that, I think we'll wrap the show up, and wish you a good evening. And again, if there's anything you need us to discuss, let us know, and we'll get it on there. We do have quite a lineup already for you, but just by all means, we always list the people's suggestions, and that's what we morph to be. So with that, we will wish you a good evening, and we wish you a very, very nice next week. Actually, we'll be warming up a bit tomorrow, and then we're going to go back to
normal all
normal
week.
normal temperatures, a little bit above normal.
Right.
Then next weekend, we should experience another warming trend. Actually, could possibly hit mid-50s. Yeah. Although it's not going to be as sunny. Right now, it's
That's okay.
looking like it's going to be like it was this weekend. Overcast, maybe not rain. We don't see that just yet, but we'll keep you updated with our weather reports every day. So with that, we would like to wish you a good evening, and we'll see you next week.
Night.
Good night.